Do you remember writing in your diary that freedom is the freedom to say 2 and 2 make 4?
Yes.
How many fingers am I holding up, Winston?
4.
And if the party says it is not 4 but 5, then
4.
180. How many? 190. How many fingers, Winston?
4. 5. 4. Anything you like. Only stop the pain. Stop.
Involuntary. Done contrary to or without choice. Involuntary.
Immigrant.
Done contrary
Definition
to
1.
or without choice.
Person who immigrates.
Involuntary.
Immigrant.
Done contrary
Definition
to
1.
involuntary.
Person who comes
Done contrary to or without choice. Done contrary to or without choice. Done contrary to or without choice.
Definition 1. Immigrant. Definition 1. Person who established. Unknown.
Santa Banga.
Unknown. Established.
Trying to free your mind.
What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have a nigger in the first place. But if you think I'm a nigger, it means you need it. The question you gotta ask yourself, the white population of this country's gotta ask itself. North and South, because it's one country, and for a Negro, there's no difference between North and the South. There's just, a difference in the way they castrate you.
Who taught you to hate yourself?
Involuntary. Done contrary to or without choice.
Immigrant. Definition 1. A person who immigrates. Definition 2. A plant or animal that becomes established where it was previously unknown.
Yo, this is Mango, the GOAT. This is Mental Liberation Moment, and this is the IIP. IIP stands for Involuntary Immigrants Podcast. It's for you niggas. I don't know how many of y'all familiar with Dr. Boyce Watkins. Dr. Boyce Watkins. Dr. Boyce Watkins is real good at sharing stuff for, the descendants of involuntary immigrants on social medias. What I respect most about the brother is he's always sharing stuff from Dr. Claude Anderson. As y'all know, I'm a huge Dr. Claude Anderson fan. One time for Dr. Claude Anderson. I agree with about 98, 99% of Dr. Claude Anderson's output. And with that being said, I agree with about 75% of Dr. Boyce Watkins' output. But he shared something the other day, and I like to give a big shout out to him for sharing it. It was a brother talking, and the brother told his story. He said this guy told him a story about his grandfather. He said his grandfather walked 10 miles to go to school. His father walked 5 miles to go to school. He now drives a Cadillac. His son drives a Mercedes, and his grandson is going to drive a Ferrari. But when it came down to his great-grandson, he might go back to walking. And the reason why is because, and I'm paraphrasing how he said it, but the struggle, going through the struggle would make your seed stronger if you're doing the struggle for them. But when you hit success and you spoil your babies, that'll cost them in the long run. So to go back down, there's a balance in the universe, right? Where there's a push, there's a pull. Contradiction is the rule of the universe. So, these motherfuckers who make it to the top from the bottom, they spoil their babies. And that baby being spoiled, he don't have that same value. You've seen poor kids growing up and they get nice shoes and they cherish the fuck out of them shoes. If they get a little bit of dirt, they wiping the motherfuckers off. Versus the rich kid who's just like, oh, fuck it, my dad'll get me a new pair. You cherish shit, especially when you have to work hard for it. When it's handed to you, don't mean as much. You know what I mean? It's a difference between a dude chasing a woman for 10 years and finally getting, he gonna marry and cherish the shit out of her. Versus the dude who she just throws pussy at and, he don't give a fuck about her. That shit was easy to get. You know, and that's literally how shit goes. And when he shared it, it's something that I knew subconsciously. I just never had it in the forefront to where I looked at it that way, like, damn, that's the best way I ever heard a motherfucker explain that shit. You know, spoiled kids don't appreciate shit. Where kids who come from nothing, holy fuck, like, and they don't want their babies to suffer the way they did, you know? And it's kind of hard to not spoil your child when you have the ability to spoil them, you know, especially if you come from some form of trauma or poverty or some shit and you hated that shit. And that's why you grind hard and you have your baby, every nigga that make it up, he say, my babies ain't gonna never have to go through the shit I went through. We gonna never have to go through that shit I went through. But your baby's not going through that shit, they ain't gonna be built like you. And that's what they're saying. They don't build them like they used to. It goes like that until they do build them like they used to. It goes into what I was talking about before, where I was like, it was a lot of black families from the slavery time until like the 70s or 80s that worked their way up, man. They worked their way up. But their kid was spoiled. They spoiled their babies. And say that one kid was all about the party. He fucked around and went to the wrong party and got a crack pipe to his lips. And he got hooked on crack. Made a baby, now he's a crackhead father. The grandparents got money. Sometimes the grandparents end up taking care of the babies for the parent because the parent was a total fuck up. But sometimes the grandparents ain't around no more. And the babies got to grow up living through that hell. And they work hard to do better. I know a lot of y'all niggas ain't familiar with Johnny Cash, but Johnny Cash had a song called Boy Named Sue, right? And the song was basically about this little boy, and the daddy left him and the mom and went out into the world. But before the daddy like dipped on him, he named the boy Sue. So the boy grows up in life getting fucked with every day by other boys because his name is Sue, like a bitch. So he fighting. Well, one day he run into his dad. When he's an adult, he runs into his dad at a bar. And he says, my name is Sue. How do you do? And him and the dad start fighting. They start fighting like a motherfucker. Tooth and nail. Well, when they get done fighting, they basically giving each other testimonies. And the son was like, you know, you left me, you named me Sue, and I had to fucking live my whole life like this without a father and a bitch name and da-da-da-da-da. And the dad says, well, son, you know, I knew I wasn't going to be around much. And you was going to be there getting raised by your mama. And I wanted to make sure without a father around, you grew up tough. You grew up a mean son of a bitch. And it worked because you just sat here and went round and round for me. And that's why I named you Sue. Because I figured if I named you Sue, you would either grow up tough or fucking fail. At the end of the song, it was comic relief because, you know, Johnny Cash said, he was like, yeah, you know, if I, you know, went through the same thing and my son, you know, I would name him Bob or some shit. I still wouldn't name him fucking Sue. And it was like, you know, a good song. But that song had a lot of the same fucking qualities in which I'm talking to y'all about because motherfuckers like spoil their child because that's what you're supposed to do as a parent. You know, you're supposed to sacrifice for your babies. But at the same time, sometimes holding back from them makes it greater. Sometimes making them earn makes them greater. You know, sometimes when you give your kid the world, they don't appreciate the world. So I wanted to keep this short and sweet, but I thought that was real. What Dr. Boyce Watkins shared, I thought that was some real shit. And a lot of people may not get to see it because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't follow him that probably should. A lot of people don't follow me that probably should. You got some people that just ain't on the fucking social medias and all that shit. But, you know, if you get the chance, man, spread that message. You don't have to spread my platform. You don't have to spread his platform. But that story I gave you, man, keep that in the back of your mind. Like, I'm not telling you to neglect your babies, but what I'm saying is don't overspoil them. Don't overspoil them. Let them know They're going to have to work. You're going to be dead one day, right? And if they so dependent on you giving them the world, what they do when you gone? Motherfucker, you got to teach them how to cook. Don't just cook for them. You know, teach them how to study. Don't study for them. Teach them how to do their homework. Don't do their homework for them. You want to raise them to be self-efficient, but you don't want to raise them to be dependent, because they're going to have to leave the nest one day. And if they leave the nest and they too dependent, they're going to be coming back every time they fuck up. You got to teach them how to own up to their shit and do right by the best of their ability on their fucking own. That's parenting. Parenting ain't about spoiling them. It's about getting them ready to go into the world, and we forget that shit. We forget that shit because we want to spoil them. We want to see them smile on Christmas with all their gifts and shit. That's selfish on our behalf. That makes us feel better when you come from nothing. That makes us say, I ain't never had nothing, so I'm going to make sure they get something. It's you competing against ghosts. You competing against your parents. Your job as a parent ain't really compete against your parents. Your job as a parent is to do right by your baby. I want to say thank y'all for listening. I got to go, but one time for the Mangaloids. Hey, and another time for Dr. Boyce Watkins. Hey, brother, if you hear me, thanks for sharing that.
Involuntary. Done contrary to or without choice. Immigrant. Definition 1. A person who immigrates. Definition 2. A plant or animal that becomes established where it was previously unknown.